Namaste and hello, this is your Sanskrit instructor welcoming you back into lesson number 136. Earlier we have learned about the active and the middle voice. In this lesson we are going to learn about the passive voice. In Sanskrit, the passive voice is considered to be karmani prayogaha. The passive voice is a grammatical term in which the noun in an active sentence appears to be the subject of a sentence in the passive voice. An example in the active voice of a sentence in the active voice would be the troops defeat the enemy. In this sentence, in this type of sentence, the enemy is the object of the sentence. But let's turn this around and put this in the passive voice. The way how to turn this around in the passive voice is that you can say that the enemy was defeated by the troops. When you turn the sentence around in that way, the enemy seems to be the subject of the sentence. Two different sentences, same exact meaning. It is just a different voice. Now getting down to how to form sentences in the passive voice. So the passive voice is formed from the verbal root and not from the verbal base, except for the verbs of the 10th conjugation, which keep their strengthened radical vowel while losing the conjugational sign I. Thus the passive voice of gum and ni, if formed immediately from gum and ni, and not from gach and nai. That of chod, which is the example of the 10th conjugation, is formed from chod and not from chorai, because the rule is that we're not adding I as how you usually do in the 10th conjugation. Gum and ni is an example of a first conjugation type of verbal root, and that all what you have to do for that is that you have to add ya and your termination ending. You are not going to use the verbal base gach and nai. You only use the verbal base for the 10th conjugation. After you do that, you have to add ya and your termination endings. Now on to adding ya. So in all of the other conjugations, we've always added in the passive voice. What makes this one different is that you're adding ya to the root. The pattern between adding ya and is relatively the same between the conjugations, and you'll identify the pattern here. That ya becomes ya, just like how becomes before the terminations beginning with ma or va. The second condition is that ya becomes ya with the halant before terminations beginning with a or a. I have a couple of conjugation tables, the present tense, the imperfect tense, the potential, and the imperative moods here. And as I'm scrolling down, I hope you're noticing that all what I'm providing here are the termination endings for atmanepadi, or in other words, the middle voice. The reason why only these terminations are available in this video is because the terminations of the passive voice are always that of atmanepadi, or middle voice terminations. So our example here is ni, which means to lead. Now, ni is in first conjugation, so all what you're going to have to do is add ya and your termination ending. If you want to say you all are led, you're going to want to use the present tense, middle voice, third person, plural, second person. And that termination ending is dwe. So you end up with ni ya dwe. You all are led. Then next you have dah yatam. Dah yatam becomes dah yatam, and that means let it be burnt. This is imperative. This is third person singular middle voice for third person for the imperative mood. So daha, another first conjugation, adding your ya and your termination ending according to the mood, and then you want it to be passive as well. And now for the next rule. So a final short I or u is lengthened. So for example, j means to conquer. Now, to be conquered, to use that in the passive, voice. You're going to want to take that short I in J and make that into G, long E, then add your ya and your termination ending. So the termination endings for the two of us is awahe for present tense, first person dual. So we two are conquered. You would end up with jiyavahi. Another example, shuru means to hear in Sanskrit. Now, to have it was heard, remember, was heard, that is indicating that you need to use the imperfect tense. So this is going to be the imperfect tense in the passive voice. So since it's imperfect, you still have to add your ya before your root word so that you can indicate that this is passive, and then you have to add your ya after. So ashru yata. Notice that the short u in shru is being lengthened into the long u according to the rules of the passive voice. Now the fifth rule. The following roots change their final vowel into long e. So da to give becomes di, dha becomes di, ma becomes mi, gai becomes gi, ha becomes he, pa becomes pi, and sta becomes ti, all when you need to use them in the passive voice. Two examples that we have here for you. Da, if you want to use that verb to say it is given, third person singular in the present passive, you would want to turn this into di, then add your ya, and then put te for third person singular in the middle voice. It is given diyate. Second, we have gai for giyate. Gai turns into gi, then adding ya, giyeta, sorry. Gai becomes giyeta. It should be sung. This is actually potential mood. Now moving on to number 6. The 6th rule. So the final ri after a single consonant, a single whole consonant, it becomes ri. So our example here, our root word for to take away is ri, correct? Now ri becomes re. Re. Re becomes re, and it becomes reye to say I am taken away. Now, if it's after, if re is coming after a compound consonant, then it becomes ar. If you don't remember what a compound consonant is, here is an example. So you have half sa connected to a ma. You have smre. The root word is smre, to remember. That is a compound consonant. The half sa connected to a ma. That ri in smri becomes a smar. Ri becomes ar. And then you're going to add your ya and your termination ending. To have smar and ya and itam together, you end up with let them both be remembered. You end up with smar ye tam. Smar ye tam. The reason why you have a tam is because remember your vowel sandhis are still going to apply because you're adding a ya. The a in the ya and the e is going to come together to give you that a vowel sign in smar ye tam. And last but not least, ri is changed into ir. So first you have stri becomes stir. So you have stir ya iran. So you have stir yeran, which means they should be spread. This is potential. However, the finality is changed to ur after a labial. So here we have another example. Pri becomes pur. Then you add your ya and your termination ending. So you end up with pur yatam, which means let it be filled. These are all of the conditions that needs to be considered when you are conjugating something in the passive voice. And this is your Sanskrit instructor signing off with a namaste.